This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing a new entrepreneur to the Halo sector. Dom from Somble. We're going to talk about his software platform, the growth of the independent industry, and how creators could thrive. So, Dom, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure to be here.
So you've got an investment banking background, as do I. I worked at DLJ. You worked at Goldman. So give us a little bit of your background, how you've kind of flipped from institutional finance guy to full-fledged entrepreneur in Manhattan.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's a passion project gone awry and all of a sudden taken very seriously. But no, I was selling currencies to hedge funds straight out of college. It was a job I enjoyed for the most part, very intellectually stimulating, very challenging. Kind of reminded me of playing a sport, but not. I would not say I had any sort of passion for what I was doing. It's kind of like playing a sport you liked but didn't love.
Yep.
But on the flip side of that, I mean, my hobbies have always been something to do with my own well-being. I mean, I grew up in a household where my dad was fasting for 3 days and seeing how many miles he could bike on a 72-hour fast. It was like I was always very close to both biohacking as well as just wellness in general and playing sports, and kind of became a bit of a super consumer of the space growing up and then through college and then into my professional life. And without going too deep into the backstory, like many other people who were close to the wellness industry in March of 2020, you saw so much change happen so fast. I mean, sort of like you watch coaches' businesses just implode or explode depending on where they sat. And a phone call from my best friend at the time, now co-founder, basically just telling me about a friend of his who had made $900 on a Zoom class after getting furloughed a few days prior from Flywheel. It's like, we just got to talking, like, what's going on in this space where you could make so much money on an hourly basis yourself, but accept so little money on an hourly basis from a studio or a gym. And it turned into this like multi-month and eventually multi-year conversation around, is there a world where the consumer could have access to coaches directly and have kind of like a more personalized and more diverse experience around their own wellness if it's coming direct from the coaches without the kind of great middleman of the studios, the gyms, and the brands? And there's a ton of flaws in that thinking, but that was the initial thought that sent us down the path and started building the team and the initial products that we rolled out.
So before we go too far, talk about the sports that you like to play.
Yeah, I mean, I played football from walking through high school. The definition of mediocre, I'll be the first person to admit, but I certainly worked hard at it. There was no position? Cornerback. I was fast, and I had that going for me. Yeah, I was fast. But
I say that I'm a wide receiver, but I'm probably more of a tight end. Some of my buddies, even though I'm 51, they tell me I can't get separation, which I'll send you some videos of some combine that I did at the SoFi Stadium last year.
We could have.
If you could take me or not, or like guard me.
We could have a very uneventful and unexciting. We can go run routes sometime.
There you go. Troy Aikman moved in across the street from me like 4 years ago for like a month, and I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get him to throw me passes. So I kind of befriended him, and then I said, "Hey, man, I got a really important favor." He's like, what do you need, Pete? I'm like, I need to be able to say I caught passes from Aikman. He's like, get your ball. It goes like that. Get your ball. And I like ran like I was like 12 years old. I got my ball, got like 30 passes from Aikman in on the boardwalk or the Strand, which is pretty awesome.
I don't think anybody would blame you for that excitement.
What's that?
So I don't think anybody's going to blame you for that excitement. I did the same.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped up. But look, sports, I mean, is obviously like the foundation of fitness to me. I was trying to replicate that team environment. And I tell people that I used to like getting yelled at because that means somebody wants me to be better. I don't take that as like pseudo like abuse. Actually, I want to get yelled at. I want a coach to push me. So as you guys kind of developed, okay, I've got a frustration where there's revenue that should be going to the talent. And there's a studio that's kind of, like Madison Square Garden, if you will. That's almost like an arena, which I tell a lot of studios in this new normal, the creator might be Rihanna or Taylor Swift or, Beyonce or Pink. Whereas you're kind of like Madison Square Garden or Staples Center, whatever they call it now. So how did you guys kind of weave through the reopenings, and who are you really serving, and what
Yeah.
frustration are you now solving?
Yeah. So to give some important context, we I got, if you look at the entire industry as supply and demand, like I'm the demand side, right? Like I've been the super consumer. I've been on my own wellness journey for 15 years of extensive research, meeting coaches, educating myself. And I always felt like it was a very fragmented and broken world. And the reason I got sucked into this idea sort of chased me around, was because I felt like if you could aggregate that information and help me get closer to the coaches, I live in a better world as a consumer. That's the vision in which everything else for me has kind of become a how. And the how involves solving specific problems for coaches so that they can run their business through our platform. The first thing we tried to do was build a marketplace. That was deep COVID in our beta. That didn't work. Independent coaches don't want to join marketplaces. What they want to do is run their own business. They have their brands. Those brands mean a lot to them. They don't want you to shop out their clients. Of course, not all of that makes sense as you start to get into it. So we said, okay, well, we still need to build this kind of unified ecosystem, but we want these individual coaches to feel like they really are building their own home from a branding perspective for how their clients interface with the platform. So that's like one piece of handing a coach something that does feel like their own. Another piece here, you mentioned the reopening aspect in gyms and studios. And I've said this to Dave before. We feel like if you're going to go out and you're going to build that world where the independent coach can thrive, you have to get the gyms and the studios and the brands and the education systems on board as well. You can't be at odds with those people who are every coach still works at a gym, whether they're independent or not, or a studio, or they're affiliated with a brand. But meanwhile, 100% of coaches, to some degree, 99.9, are making money on the side in some way, shape, or form as well. So you got to kind of fit all those pieces together. So for us, from a reopening perspective, like we entered this world where the coaches were already working at gyms and the coaches were already making money in person, and our platform already sort of like acknowledged those things to a certain degree, especially the in-person thing. The gym thing, that's a lot of what we're focusing on now, is how do you let gyms and studios actually benefit from the businesses that the coaches are running on the platform, as opposed to be at odds with that coach trying to make money on the side. So there's different things involving revenue shares, cross-promoting each other, cross-promoting brand endorsements and things like that, where the coaches and the gyms can actually be a bit more hand in hand as they do business.
Mm-hmm. Where'd the name come from?
We knew from the jump that it had to involve togetherness, everything we were doing at Somble. If there's one thing we never wanted to do, it was push coaches further apart. And so we were looking at just like a bunch of words that felt like people working in harmony. And Ensemble came up out of that process. And if you've ever tried to trademark something, you benefit from making up a word. So Somble came as a spinoff of Ensemble. And then, of course, you can tell people to get on Somble.
I think in the marching band or in my orchestra or something, it was always the ensemble, right?
Exactly.
Somewhere exactly. Second trumpet, by the way, just so you know.
I tried, was not excellent at that either. So hopefully, on to bigger and better hobbies now.
So how long did you work at Goldman, and what has been your perspective of becoming an entrepreneur? Obviously, you're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks with a Goldman Sachs, direct deposit. Were you prepared for that? And, what are some of the things that you've said, wow, this makes me feel, on top of the world, and also, probably like, at the bottom of a valley or in a cave at some point. Like Goldman.
Yeah. So I was at Goldman for about 3 years. And the biggest difference that comes to mind from that world and this world, there's a lot of anxiety and stress in both. It's very intense in both. But at Goldman, there was a framework. There was a system that you plugged into, you were a part of, you contributed to it, and you were judged on your ability to contribute to the existing system. And maybe you like incrementally improved it. You go start a company, there's no system. There's no system. There is literally absolutely nothing. And you start going out, you have ideas. And in the beginning, was I prepared for that? Absolutely not. I did.
Right. You're not alone.
Yeah. I mean, you spend we're still in the jungle, but like that first, call it 18 months. I mean, we just did things that were effectively useless outside of course you learn lessons from things, but you just have no idea what it means to take an idea and bring it into existence and have people pay to use your idea until you've built the thing, until you're trying to understand why somebody hates it, why somebody loves it. And the only thing in there I wish somebody had just beaten me over the head with early on was that ideas are really a dime a dozen. And it's just execution and distribution are basically the only things that are going to matter when you bring something to life. And we spent a lot of time in idea land before it finally started to click. Like, you got to go out into the world and talk to people. And then we flipped that switch very fast. I laugh about the summer of 2021 because our KPIs internally that month would be like, how many fitness classes did you go to? How many emails and DMs and surveys were sent out between 4 and 6 a.m.? But that's when the real information started to come in. And we actually, we went from going, okay, I think we need to build a marketplace to, I think we need to build amazing coaching software that brings coaches together, which is how we ended up with software that's very collaborative for coaches. Coaches can split revenue and promote each other. Basically, the unique insights that have resulted in a platform that's, I think, foundationally different than the other technologies coming to market to benefit trainers and studios. Those only come about from an obsessive and flat out over the top customer discovery process out there in the world speaking to folks.
When you take a look at the amount of money that people spend on getting their kids trained to make, whether it's junior varsity, sports specific training, how have you guys looked at that? Given that you were a high school athlete, and I wish that I could go back to high school with the information that's out there on exercise and nutrition. I'm used to eating like a meatball hero, chocolate milk and French fries before like a varsity basketball game. I don't think that's probably the prescription for success. Nor was like the workouts anything that we really knew anything about that would actually catapult you into, any kind of elite performance. So are you guys looking mostly at health club studios? Are you looking at sports specific training? How are you guys targeting the types of people you want on the platform?
Yeah. So I think if I had to draw a through line between every coach on the platform, it's that they're succeeding in something you'd obviously call a niche. There's very few, general fitness trainers leveraging our tech. Mm-hmm. The niches, well, the vast majority of people, just because we have a little bit of a background in this space, come from the kettlebell or functional fitness world. Quite early on, we saw a lot of success for athletic training, especially sports-specific athletic training. We had some of our first coaches on the platform were actually soccer coaches. They decided to use the tech because you could split revenue at time of sale between two coaches. They were running a camp. They were basically taking checks, keeping track on a Google Drive, Google Sheets as to who was coming. The standard stuff that most tech platforms are trying to solve in our space, although I would argue that the payment splitting thing is a bit unique to us. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they doubled their business in 2 weeks. After running it week after week, it literally doubled 2 weeks in because parents started sharing the booking link around. You no longer had to know the coach personally to get your kid to go. And there's a ton of money. So basically their model is basically if you want to join the local team that kind of feeds up into better and better soccer teams, these guys, because they have connections at those teams, because they're ex-pro soccer players, they have the ability to have some sort of say in that funnel and help shepherd kids through it. And so even by joining the camp, the kids have a better chance of progressing. Parents obviously buy into that. We made it far easier for parents to pay for that and to share with other parents that opportunity. And the business grew a lot for it. So if that partially answers your question, there's certainly opportunity out there for independent coaches and athletes to go build businesses around that. And our tech serves it well. But generally what we're looking for is coaches who have some sort of niche, because those coaches just tend to have very strong client bases. They tend to be more collaborative as well, because they're good at X. They find somebody that's good as Y. They start working together. Those two coaches build a bigger business together, because our platform, they can run their own business on the platform, but they can also unify their business with other businesses on the platform. It's a very good fit for our tech.
One of the things we've been talking about with some of the studios when we go around and do seminars, that sounds like it could be something, either plant the seed for you or something that could be done through the software. A lot of these, if you're going to a yoga studio, let's say, and I become a member of a yoga studio, I'm not looking to go to this yoga studio 30 times a month, right? I should probably go like twice a week or 3 times a week. I should probably do workout recovery with a local business or that business 2 or 3 times a week. I should probably be doing strength training 2 or 3 times a week. So one of the ideas we've been talking about is to say, hey, look, if you're a yoga studio and you've got a HIIT studio in your same shopping plaza, let's say, and a workout recovery, why don't you actually prescribe a workout that includes all the different businesses and come up with like a monthly rate, and then share the revenue between those three. And actually, you're going to get sick results because people are now actually multidisciplinary. They're probably a lot more flexible. They're probably looking in the mirror and like they're seeing significant change. That's really not happening yet on the ground, but I think it's going to. It has to. Whether you want to combat some of the aggregators that are out there that people are just hopping around. I don't even have access to their credit card anymore. Or people are just jumping and they're not getting results because they're just kind of going out, like going to dinner. Let's try this restaurant, let's try this workout. So that might be an opportunity where like co-op marketing or a co-op programming might be like the next big thing in the bricks and mortar space.
Absolutely. So I think it's been talked about. I don't have much to add to this part of the conversation, but it's been talked about so much. But there has always been trouble with like the great demand capturing marketplace like platforms for fitness studios, because they just bring the cost down so much and it makes it even harder to make money as a studio. And so we've always been interested in like, how do you give the power to the studios, the pricing power to the studios, and let them say, okay, I complement nicely with these 3 other local businesses. Can we create a subscription or a class package that's good at all of these? And that idea was born out of watching in New York City, these kettlebell coaches and these classes that we were going to that our friends were leading, where you'd get 2 coaches who would lead a class together that had complementary skill sets, or maybe one was more of an influencer, one more of an educator, but together it was something really, really powerful. And they'd go put 40 people into a class where maybe they were going to get 15, 17 people into that class on their own. We added a little split revenue checkbox on our platform that let coaches start doing that together. And we saw in our first sample size with over 200 collaborations, it was like, I think 3.5 times more attendees in classes with 2 coaches than with 1 coach. Like, it's exponential.
Right.
That absolutely would apply to studios as well. And we actually we didn't build the tech for studios, but as the tech expanded, especially when we launched the full product at the beginning of this year, we had some studios join. They had some frustrations with legacy platforms, or in one case actually grew such a large business in conjunction with our platform that it became a studio. And they actually started doing that, saying, hey, members at it's a kettlebell studio and members at the Muay Thai place are going to get discounts here, and vice versa. Their class is only available to that. So we've already started to see that actually work in real life.
Nice. And that's not just online workouts. Those are actually in person.
Yeah. Since I think 2021 August, when we launched out of the first beta, since that day, we've had more money processed through the platform for in-person stuff than digital stuff. And I would say, I think it's like 4 out of 5 coaches, when I look at like the top bucket of highest earning coaches, are doing both.
Gotcha. I don't know if you know, but Dave Gatlin, he started Kettlebell Concepts a long time ago. So kettlebell, he was hawking around kettlebells when people thought he was crazy, and probably got scoliosis at one point from hawking them around. Let's do a quick lightning round so people kind of know a little bit about you as an entrepreneur. So Are you
Please.
a morning or night workout guy?
Morning. Not even a question.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy. Again, not even a question. It's stressful enough out there.
OCD or let it flow?
Let it flow.
Value or growth?
Value.
Cardio or strength?
You're talking to somebody who is asking himself that question every day right now. I will say right now, cardio. I just finished up a 100-mile ride on a bike, and I've got a marathon I'm training for in 2 months. Traditionally, it's been strength. The two do not complement each other, and I love working on both at the same time.
All right, and the last question on the lightning round is entrepreneurship or investment banking?
Entrepreneurship. That's not even a question either. It's like one of them is just, it's a giant flywheel of everybody's money. The other one, again, value over growth, right? I think there's a lot of value. You can go out and facilitate positive change, do really beautiful things as an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. So, it sounds like you've got, there's been a lot of positive momentum with the platform. What's the ideal client or if you're talking to 100,000s of people right now that are, in and around the space, what's the elevator pitch here to get on Somble?
Yeah. I mean, we've basically built a control center for independent coaches to run their business. So any coach that feels like they're using too many products at the same time, or any coach interested in launching and expanding a business line themselves, especially if they're interested in working alongside other coaches, either in our network or their own, those people can find a lot of value very quickly building out through our web platform and through our app. And then I just append to that, small instructor-run studios have also been finding a lot of value as well, just with our membership and our content functionality.
And the last question I'll have for you is, you and your buddy started this company. You're COO and co-founder. Tell us what his title is and how you guys have kind of either gang tackled opportunities or say like, hey man, this is my line of work and this is your line of work, and let's kind of create some kind of roles and responsibilities here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 3 co-founders, and we're all best friends from college, and we just happen to have very different skill sets and to be virtually nothing alike. So it worked out well. So Ian Waltz is our CEO. He runs product. He's designing the product. He's ideating. The vision was his idea. As our COO, myself, I spend most of my time. He's very, he thinks horizontally, I think vertically. So I'm the one focusing on actually bringing this to people, getting the feedback, sort of sit in a community management or almost like a sales role, which fits a bit naturally with my background. Mm-hmm. And then Matt, our CTO, is just an absolute wizard of a full stack developer. I mean, before we had any other help or before we ever did any hiring, he built something that competed with very well-funded technology on his own. And then to answer the last part of that question, how do we separate? I think you literally have to find what it is that you're good at. And because startups are so hard to build, you can't have obvious deficiencies. So this isn't really an answer so much as it's just like the conditions in which I think a startup can get built. Like you need to build a team in which everybody is really good, or at least somebody is really good at all the things that the startup has to be good at. So I love speaking with people. I love building relationships. So that's what I do all day. Ian loves researching and designing product, and Matt loves building product. So that's what they do all day. And with the 3 of us, we have the kind of classic product team with the sales guy, the designer, and the guy building the thing.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all the information in the show notes. I'm glad we were able to connect with you early on so we can track the progress here. Happy to make introductions, as you see fit and as it grows. And, we've got some Halo Academy, which we could send over some codes for if you guys want to learn about some other parts of the industry. And we will track Somble. I like the name, I like where you guys are going. Sounds like you're pretty focused and know what frustrations you're solving. And I think there's a big need for trainers to come together to provide programming. Just like you go to a concert, there's usually 2 or 3 artists that are on that concert track. So I think that's where things are going. So good stuff, Amazing. Man. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate it. It was an honor to be on here. Thank you.
Awesome.